Sergeant, pour the coffee. That's all you're here for. The order snapped across the briefing room at Naval Station Keyhaven. Officers didn't even look at her, just a shadow with a carafe in her hand. But when she leaned across the table, the sleeve of her uniform slipped back. A glint of steel caught the light. A trident carved into a ring, one that almost no woman had ever earned. The general's eyes froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. And in that silent second, everyone realized the quiet sergeant wasn't who they thought she was. Before we dive into this story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. Naval Station Keyhaven, Florida. Dose 7:30 in the morning. The conference wing of Joint Response Unit, Orion, was already humming. Cold air drifted from the vents. White fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. A mahogany table stretched across the room, its surface covered with satellite maps and marked folders. Staff Sergeant Noelle Kerrigan entered quietly. Her boots made no sound on the polished floor. She carried a stainless coffee carafe in one hand, a small leather notebook tucked under her arm. Her uniform was standard camouflage. No ribbons, no patches, no name tape. Hair pulled into a perfect bun, not a strand out of place. She looked like background staff, an invisible cog in the machinery, someone here to pour coffee, not to speak. Three colonels gathered near the head of the table. They leaned over satellite prints, pointing at ports and rail lines. Their voices were clipped, sharp, filled with acronyms. By the window stood two lieutenant colonels, reviewing flight schedules. One traced a finger down a column of numbers. The other checked his watch, already impatient. Noelle set the coffee station in the corner, filters folded, packets lined with military precision. She worked with the calm rhythm of someone used to being ignored. "Sergeant," Colonel Trent Mercer called, without glancing up. "Make sure we've got extra copies of the operations draft and pastries, if the commissary has them." "Yes, sir." Her voice was steady, barely more than a breath. Colonel Dana Whitaker rifled through her folder. "When General Dalton arrives," she said, "his coffee is black, no sugar, no cream." She didn't look at Noelle either. "Understood, ma'am." Noelle's tone was neutral, practiced. To them, she was furniture, a machine that responded when pushed, functional, silent, replaceable. She had played this role many times before, in other rooms, with other officers, always the same dismissive tone. But she knew the value of being underestimated. People revealed things when they thought you didn't matter. They dropped their guard when they assumed you were invisible. She blended back into the wall, eyes calm, posture still, every movement designed not to draw attention. The room carried the scent of hot paper and strong coffee. The low hum of printers filled the pauses between conversations. On the table, red-bordered folders glowed under the fluorescent light. At exactly 7:48, the hallway fell silent. A rhythm of boots echoed, measured and certain. The door opened, and General Avery Dalton entered. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Authority moved with him like a shadow, uniform pressed with sharp creases, silver stars glinting on each shoulder. He carried himself like a man who had seen combat and returned with every principle intact. Conversation stopped mid-word. Officers straightened unconsciously. Not fear, something colder. Respect. Dalton's gaze swept the room once. He noted the maps, the folders, the people. His eyes brushed past Noelle without pause. He sat at the head of the table, unsnapped his folder, laid out his pen with mechanical precision. "Let's begin," he said. His tone was calm, but it landed like a command. Mercer launched into his overview, laser pointer cutting across the satellite photos. Troop symbols and coded arrows littered the surface of the map. Whitaker followed with communications protocols, timelines, encrypted frequencies, fallback windows. Every detail rehearsed. Noelle stood near the wall, hands folded neatly, Expression neutral. Her eyes tracked every move without appearing to. Dalton asked questions in short bursts. Deployment timelines, transport delays. His voice cut through the room with surgical clarity. At one point, his gaze drifted toward the coffee station. A slight nod, almost imperceptible. Noelle caught it instantly. She lifted the carafe, crossed the room with measured steps, waited for a natural pause in Mercer's presentation. The general's cup was half empty. She reached across the table to refill it, her movements smooth, deliberate. Her sleeve shifted as she leaned. Just a fraction, enough to reveal the ring on her left hand. Dark steel, edges worn, surface scratched from years of use. An unmistakable trident carved deep into the band. Dalton froze. His hand stopped halfway to the paper. The room seemed to lose sound for a beat. Mercer kept speaking, oblivious. Whitaker scribbled notes. The lieutenant colonel shuffled papers at the window, but Dalton's eyes locked on the ring. Recognition hit instantly. That was no ornament. He had seen only a handful like it, issued after the most punishing training in the Yudo military, a mark of survival from Bud S. Class 351, a crucible almost no one finished. The general's chest rose once, deep and slow. He studied the posture of the woman pouring his coffee. Details leapt into focus, stance balanced, gaze flicking unconsciously to exits. Breathing steady. This was no administrative sergeant. This was something else, on something rare. Noelle set the carafe down carefully, stepped back with practiced grace. The silence around Dalton thickened. He set his pen aside. His voice broke the air like a blade. Staff Sergeant Kerrigan. All eyes turned. Mercer stopped mid-sentence. Pointer shaking. Whitaker froze, pen hovering above her pad. Yes, sir. Noelle answered, calm but alert. She felt the shift instantly. The cover of invisibility had cracked. Dalton leaned back in his chair, eyes never leaving hers. That's an interesting ring you're wearing. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Every officer stared at her now. Coffee steam rose slowly between them, marking the silence. Staff Sergeant Kerrigan, General Dalton repeated. The words landed like a round fired downrange. The entire room went still. Mercer's pointer trembled over the satellite image. Whitaker's pen hovered mid-stroke, ink blotting the corner of her page. Every officer turned, waiting for an explanation. Dalton's eyes never left the small steel ring. His voice was calm, but the undertone carried weight. Where did you get it? A faint scoff from Mercer. He muttered under his breath, almost a laugh. Must be a gift shop piece. Whitaker shook her head, dismissive. Novelty trinket, she whispered, just loud enough. They expected silence from the woman in the corner, but Noelle didn't flinch. Her voice came clear, measured. Bud's Class 351. I passed. The room froze again. Mercer blinked, unsure he heard correctly. Whitaker's mouth parted, then shut quickly. Dalton leaned back slowly. His chair creaked under the motion, the only sound in the room. Colonels, he said evenly, step outside. Sir Mercer started, but stopped at the look. Dalton's tone hardened by a fraction. Now. The two colonels exchanged glances, frustration plain on their faces, but rank settled the matter. They gathered papers in stiff silence and left. The door closed with a click. Dalton reached forward and turned the lock. The conference room shrank, suddenly intimate. Just the general, just the staff sergeant, and a table full of classified maps. Dalton folded his hands. Report. The truth. No summaries. His gaze didn't soften. Noelle straightened. Every line of her posture sharp with discipline. Her words came without hesitation. Raqqa, northern Syria. Hostage extraction. 3 American contractors held by an ISIS-linked cell. Her eyes stayed level. Steady. Objective achieved. All 3 recovered alive. Dalton's brow lifted slightly. Casualties. The question wasn't soft. Noelle's tone didn't waver. IED struck convoy on exfil route. Master Chief Leo Navarro killed instantly. Petty Officer Evan Doyle and Petty Officer Kurt Lake also lost. Dalton's jaw tightened. The names weren't new to him. He had read them in the redacted reports. Her next words were precise. I was trapped under collapsed steel 4 hours, extracted alive. 6 weeks in active treatment, 9 more in rehabilitation. Dalton studied her face. He noted the lack of dramatics, the surgical delivery of facts. But beneath it, he saw the weight of survival, and now he pressed. Mind clear. Noelle inhaled once. Every morning I remember them. Navarro, Doyle, Lake, her voice dipped, steady but human. They're gone. But I am fit. Range of motion, 100%. Strength better than before. Her eyes didn't blink. I want to return. Dalton tapped the table once with his knuckle. He let silence linger, testing her resolve. Then he shifted the folder toward her. You've been quiet this whole briefing, he said. Yet you were watching. Tell me what you saw. His tone carried the sharpness of a challenge. Noelle moved closer to the table. She pointed without hesitation toward the corner of the satellite spread. Camera coverage leaves a blind spot here, northwest angle, exactly 32 meters wide. Dalton's eyes narrowed slightly. Go on. She traced the green line marked as the retreat route. Surface patch here, uneven repairs. Vehicles crossing will vibrate. Cheap drones detect the tremor. Trigger alerts. Her finger stopped at a warehouse marked A3. They'll stage an ambush at this choke. We walk right into it. Her statement was clean, final. No embroidery, no theatrics. Dalton leaned forward. His pen hovered, then scratched across the margin. He wrote quickly, efficiently. The room felt heavier now, not because of the maps, because of the woman who had just redrawn the battlefield with a few sentences. Dalton finally looked up. His eyes met hers again. You caught this while pouring coffee. Yes, Colonel, sir, Noelle said evenly. Eyes open. Always. The general let out a slow breath through his nose. For the first time that morning, his expression shifted from scrutiny to consideration. The silence between them spoke louder than the earlier chaos. The lock clicked. General Dalton pulled the door open. Mercer and Whitaker stepped back in, irritation sharp on their faces. They expected the meeting to resume as before, but Dalton's voice carried a new weight. Kerrigan is no longer administrative support. She will coordinate operational planning. The words hit like live fire. Mercer blinked hard, jaw tightening. Whitaker's brows shot upward, confusion flooding her expression. Sir, with respect, Mercer snapped. She is enlisted staff. She's not cleared for strategic adjustments. His voice cut across the table. The dismissal was plain, raw. Noelle didn't retreat. She stepped forward, finger pointing at the green exfil line on the map. Your current withdrawal path runs across a patched surface. Vibration sensors will pick it up. Drones will respond in under 90 seconds. Mercer's mouth closed mid-retort. Her tone was exact, her detail surgical. Whitaker's pen stopped scratching. Noelle continued. Calm but sharp. You're assuming coverage from the northern relay is secure. It isn't. Maintenance cycles drop it for 4 minutes each night. If that window overlaps an operation, your teams vanish from command screens. Whitaker's face lost color. She checked her notes, flipping pages quickly. Nothing she had prepared matched the precision Noelle just delivered. Dalton's voice was final. Update the plan. Every adjustment Kerrigan just made. Implement it. He didn't leave room for argument. Mercer looked down at the table. His silence said more than protest would have. Whitaker only nodded, slow and stiff. The balance in the room shifted. A sergeant they had ignored now stood at the center. Their authority thinned, stripped in minutes. Dalton ended it with one sentence. Meeting adjourned. Kerrigan, stay with me after. His tone closed the matter permanently. 3 weeks later, Meridian Base, Virginia. Tactical Operations Center. The air smelled of electronics and adrenaline. Screens glowed along the walls. Radio chatter hissed and popped across multiple channels. Teams checked gear, voices clipped and steady. At the center stood Noelle Kerrigan. No corner to hide in now, no coffee pot at her side. She wore a headset, eyes locked on the central display. Behind her, officers and technicians moved with controlled urgency. Above them, the mission clock ticked down. Task Force Lumen, status green. A comms officer called. Noelle nodded, steady as stone. She adjusted her microphone. All teams, confirmed check-ins, voices rolled back, one by one. Alpha ready, Bravo ready, Charlie ready. For a moment, her mind cut back years. Hell Week, Coronado, ocean water like knives against skin. She saw herself half buried in sand, arms linked with teammates. A whistle blowing, instructors screaming over the surf, her hand gripping another's, refusing to let go. Stay awake, stay alive. The words burned back through time. Then the flash ended. The present returned with sharp focus. The ops center buzzed, maps alive with moving icons. Noelle steadied her breathing. Alpha, alter your egress route, she ordered. Shift from green line to black line. Do not cross sector A3. Her tone was calm but immovable. The reply came quick. Copy. Shifting to black. Wheels in motion. Bravo team echoed. Adjusting. Black line acknowledged. Charlie confirmed the same. Seconds later, one of the drone feeds wavered. Static washed across the screen. Signal strength dropped without warning. Technicians cursed softly. Drone 2 showing interference. Another screen flickered red. Noelle's eyes narrowed. That's the vibration trigger. They set sensors under the patch surface. It's live. Her voice stayed even, but her jaw clenched. Dalton stood behind her now, silent. He had come to watch, not command. This was her moment, not his. Alpha, hold position. Bravo, adjust 30 meters east. Charlie, cover their flank. Her words cut through the static. Orders clear, no hesitation. Green icons shifted on the board. Enemy markers lit up near A3 exactly where she predicted. Ambush sprung into empty air. The control room inhaled as one. Technicians leaned closer to their screens. The trap had failed. Gunfire cracked faintly through a radio feed, but it wasn't American voices panicked. It was hostile chatter, confused, scrambling. Noelle's orders flowed. Suppress the north corridor. Exfil through Delta Gate. 10 minutes, all clear. Her hand traced routes faster than any pointer could. The teams confirmed in quick succession. Voices steady, professional. Trust sealed in every transmission. Minutes dragged like hours. But one by one, the icons moved out of the hot zone. No losses, no surprises. When the last call came, all units clear, the room erupted. Officers exhaled. Technicians high-fived under their breath. Relief swept through the air like a breaking wave. Noelle removed her headset slowly. Her hands were steady. Her eyes stayed on the fading icons until the map went neutral. Dalton stepped forward. He didn't clap. He didn't smile wide, but his nod carried more weight than cheers. The colonels who once doubted her sat at the edge of the room. They had no words left. Their silence was its own confession. Noelle felt her shoulders drop slightly. For the first time in months, the weight lifted. Not gone, but carried differently. She thought of Navarro, Doyle, Lake. She pictured them standing in that sandpit years ago. Hands linked, eyes burning. She whispered under her breath, too quiet for anyone else. We did it. Then she turned back to the mission board. The mission ended with every team intact. No casualties, no surprises. Dalton's judgment had been vindicated. In the after-action review, his voice was firm. Kerrigan is restored to full operational status. The decision was logged in permanent ink. Mercer didn't wait for applause. He submitted a request for reassignment the next morning. Whitaker followed 2 days later, citing career growth. Everyone knew the truth. Their authority had cracked when they dismissed the woman with the coffee pot. The military machine doesn't forgive that kind of mistake. Rumors spread across Meridian Base. A sergeant once ignored in the corner was now a name in every corridor. Kerrigan, the one Dalton trusted. It wasn't just gossip. Her observations had saved lives. That was the kind of story that traveled fast in officer clubs. By spring, her file had been rewritten. Her operational history resurfaced, no longer hidden in layers of bureaucracy. Command notes marked her as high value. Field ready. 6 months passed. The setting was no longer Virginia. It was Washington, D.C., Joint Interagency Command Hall. The room was larger, the stakes higher. Representatives from SEAL teams, Army Rangers, Air Force Pararescue, and CIA sat in rows. The atmosphere was taut with anticipation. At the head of the table sat Noelle Kerrigan, not on the wall, not in the shadows. The chair was hers. She adjusted her headset. Briefing materials glowed on the screens. Her voice carried clear across the hall. We are coordinating a joint strike under Task Force Lumen Authority. Assets span 4 branches. Timelines are critical. Eyes fixed on her as she spoke. Every directive precise, every sentence efficient. No one questioned her authority. Dalton sat near the back this time. He didn't need to lead. He watched quietly, proud of his earlier call. For Noelle, the moment was strange. 6 months earlier, she'd been treated as an errand runner. Now colonels were taking notes as she drew lines across the map. Midway through the meeting, the door opened. A young Air Force lieutenant slipped in, tablet under one arm, notebook in the other. He moved quietly, almost invisible. He set his station near the wall. No one paid him much attention. Noelle noticed, the way his shoulders hunched slightly, the way he angled his chair for a clear view of the exits. She remembered herself in Norfolk, ignored and underestimated. Same posture, same silence, same weight of being overlooked. The meeting continued. Decisions were made, plans finalized. Her voice directed the flow until the agenda closed. One by one, the officers filed out, papers stacked, chairs scraped back. Conversations resumed in the hallway. The young lieutenant gathered his things quickly, trying not to linger, trying not to be noticed. No, wait, Noelle said. Her tone cut gently but firmly. He stopped, surprised. She walked over. Lieutenant, I saw the notes you took. You tracked every shift in the timeline. That wasn't clerical. He hesitated. Ma'am, I was just here for communication support. Nothing else. But his voice cracked with truth unsaid. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What's your background? It wasn't a casual question. He exhaled. Combat controller. Ma'am, 3 deployments. Afghanistan mostly. Got clipped by an IED on the last run. Docs grounded me while I recover. Noelle's eyes shifted to his wrist. His sleeve had ridden up slightly. There it was, ink of the combat controller badge. Faded, but unmistakable. A mark earned through fire and grit. Not something you picked up in a shop. Recognition struck her instantly. It was the same way Dalton had seen her ring. Proof carried on the body, not the mouth. The lieutenant flushed, embarrassed. They've got me buried in admin for now. I'm not sure if I'll ever get back out there. Noelle extended her hand. Firm, solid. Her eyes locked onto his. Staff Sergeant Kerrigan, she said evenly. We need to talk. The words hung heavy, deliberate. He took her hand, gripped tight, almost relieved. The unspoken bond passed in that moment. Operator to operator, survivor to survivor. Around them. The room was empty now, but the echo of their voices filled the space with new weight. It was a mirror of another day, another revelation. Months ago, she had been the invisible one, dismissed as a coffee server until her ring gave her away. Now she was the one who recognized hidden value. She thought of Navarro, Doyle, and Lake again. Their names still burned in her chest. But this time the weight felt different. Honoring them meant carrying others forward, not just surviving missions, but making sure the next operator wasn't wasted in silence. The circle had closed, from dismissed to discovered, from discovered to leader, and now, from leader to mentor. Noel Kerrigan had become the game changer, the one who passed the torch.